All right. So Nancy Mace is going crazy this week because she has stood up for women's rights. She is a Republican. She is a woman, a biological woman, and she does not want transgender women to be entering women's bathrooms because they are still men. We all know this. We're not stupid. I agree with her. Men should not be in women's bathrooms, but some people think that men should be in women's bathrooms. So let's hear her thoughts. She was on Pierce Morgan's show, and she had a few things to explain why she felt the way she felt about men being in women's bathrooms. Let's tune into the video. Make sure you guys hit that like button, man.
Well, there's one thing we could all surely agree on. Only AOC could argue with a straight face that banning men from women's toilets is putting women in danger. In a moment, we'll debate the latest with Carrie Lake and an all-star panel. But first, here to answer the charge herself is Representative Nancy Mace. Well, welcome to you, Nancy Mace. You're one of the most famous people in America this week. I've got to say, I'm behind you on this. I just feel like the most telling part of the election race to me was that the most effective ad of the whole campaign was the one that Donald Trump did directly about this whole issue, saying Kamala's for they, them, Trump is for you. And it was remarkably effective. I think a lot of people, particularly women, but a lot of people, including me, including you, we feel very strongly that this issue of trans athletes in women's sport, trans women in women's spaces and so on, has just got completely out of control and is unfair, unequal, or even indeed now potentially harmful. Tell me why you feel so exercised about this.
Well, I am deeply passionate about women's rights. I'm the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I'm also the very first woman, Republican woman, elected to Congress from my home state of South Carolina. And, this issue is hitting us right in our faces right now. And it's something that I will take a stand on. This is a hill I'm willing to die on to protect women and girls. And the other thing I've been saying too, is that I'm a survivor of rape. I was raped at the age of 16. And about a year ago, I had a deeply traumatic experience, and I was diagnosed with PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, from abuse that I suffered at the hands of a man. And I've lost 30 pounds over the course of the last 12 months. This weekend, in fact, I moved for the fourth time in a year. And so I have suffered the consequences of abuse. And I know firsthand how women's private spaces should be just for women. Rape victims like myself, or any woman for that matter, should not be forced to undress in front of men. And that's what the insanity of the left, that's what their policies are causing, not just on Capitol Hill, but all across the country, in schools, in locker rooms, dressing rooms, bathrooms. This is happening everywhere. And we have to put a line in the sand, big, fat, bold, red line, and say, hell no, no more. Like, I am going to fight like hell for this. I don't want chicks with dicks in my bathroom, in my dressing room. I don't want to be forced to change in front of a man, period. And it's a trigger for me. And I absolutely am going to go to the mat for women and girls everywhere and put a stop to it.
Well said, my lady. Well said, Nancy Mace. Well said. I mean, I think the majority of the world agrees with you. Not even just in the United States. The majority of the world. Now, of course, you do have those few, very few, that probably think you're insane, probably think I'm insane, and probably think that men should be in women's spaces. As a man myself, I don't want to be in women's spaces because, yes, it is absolutely private to you. And I don't want women to be in our spaces because it's private to us. And you know what happens when you put a bunch of men and women in the same place at the same time with genitalia out? You get a Diddy party. Okay? We are trying to avoid that. We don't want to be in jail. We don't want to be caught up. Got me feeling it? No. We don't want none of that. We want the real. We want separation. It's cool to be separate, and in this circumstance, it's cool. I don't want to have to play against women in sports. I don't want my daughters to have to play against men in sports. Can you imagine? I can't even imagine growing up. Like, I've seen unisex sports. I've seen it. I've seen women playing in men's sports. I've seen that growing up, in like Little League and, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-olds, just trying to learn the sport. But when we're actually talking about competing for medals and competing for championships, that's a little bit of a different type of competition. And I'm telling you right now, man, the physicality of a man versus the physicality of a woman, it's unmatched. It's unmatched. And I think that's just kind of obvious. It's not fair. It's not right. And honestly, it's not cool. Let's continue.
Your critics say when you use phrases like chicks with dicks, you're being deliberately inflammatory and you're fueling transphobia, that you have essentially a hatred of trans people. What would you say to them?
I would say they're completely off the rails. They're worried about feelings and not facts. And the facts are, Pierce, I voted for gay marriage not once, but twice. I have co-sponsored legislation to protect the rights of those in the LGBTQ community. But I draw a line, the insanity of the left that thinks it's okay for a man and his penis to be in our private spaces. And look, Pierce, I was receiving hundreds of death threats a day last week. I got over 1,000 death threats. I've had to increase my security. Some guy tried to rush the stage last week trying to get at me. I've had multiple people in front of Capitol Police that were guarding me come up to me and try to verbally or physically accost me over the last couple of days. The fact that you're willing to kill a woman over her right to privacy it's insanity.
No, yeah, these people are sick. These people are sick. Honestly, you have to be sick to think like that. You can't be normal. You can't be a regular person. I'll be honest with you. You have to be sick. For you to be, as a man, fighting for the right to be in a woman's private area is sick. I don't care how gay you are. I don't care how transgender you are. It's sick. Let them have their own space. We're not trying to have them in our spaces. They don't want us in their spaces, in their private areas. Let them have their space. It should not be a discussion. It should not be a fight. It should not be a tussle. You're a man. You're a man. And they're females. Keep it separate. Keep it separate. And that's not homophobic. That's not transphobic. That's just common sense. Let's continue.
And I feel like the more that they come after me, the harder I'm going to fight back, the harder I'm going to push back. It's rabid insanity is what it is.
What's fascinating is that you're obviously a conservative, but J.K. Rowling, who's had exactly the same experience that you have for raising exactly the same concerns, she's very much to the left. So they're pretty, non-discriminatory in the abuse and threats that they dish out, the trans lobby over this. And again, I've always said, all I want for trans people is the same rights to fairness and equality that I enjoy and that you enjoy and everybody else enjoys. But what it can't do, and I felt strongly about this for years, it cannot erode women's rights to fairness, equality, and safety. And that's really what the nub of this debate is. When you see people like AOC, for example, screeching away about you, what do you feel? Because I always feel with her, on the one hand, she's all for, we've got to protect women's rights for abortion, for example, but she doesn't give a damn about 6'5" biological males dominating women's sport or getting into boxing rings in women's boxing.
It don't make sense.
Winning gold medals by beating up actual women when they have male chromosomes. So it's a complete double standard. And I think it's partly one of the reasons they got such a thumping in the election. Because I think most people are like, you know what? This stuff's nuts.
Absolutely. Like, you couldn't say it any better, Pierce. You could not say it any better. If I was there, I'd shake your hand, brother. Because How are you going to advocate for women's rights when it comes to killing babies, but when it comes to men being in women's bathroom, you're okay with it? Like, what are we talking about here? Where's the logic? Where's the common sense? And you're the woman. And then the next week, when a man comes in your bathroom space, you looking at him, he's looking at you, y'all looking at each other, and you thinking, what the hell is he doing in here? It doesn't make sense, man. It really doesn't. Let's continue.
Totally. And you saw Kamala Harris. She won women at a lesser margin than Joe Biden did. When he won in 2020, he won women by plus 13 points. Kamala won women by 8 points. And so women are trending away from the Democrat Party. And in fact, just a few minutes ago, before we got on to tape this interview, I heard from yet another Democrat woman who is sick and tired of being marginalized by the left. And I've heard from lesbians, I've heard from gays, and, they're like, we understand you want to protect our rights and this goes too far. We get it. We support you. And so I appreciate I'm grateful for everyone of every political stripe, every orientation who said, we're with you, because this is going to take an army to push back against 1/2 of 1% of the population. And literally they're putting my life in danger. I've been called an extremist, a right winger, and I am conservative, but what they're doing, the violent rhetoric they're using, is putting the life of my life and my kids' lives in danger, and it's not okay. And I'm just going to fight back. I'm going to fight back harder.
Well, it is absolutely shocking that you've been receiving all these death threats. It's shocking. It's outrageous. It's shameful. And it comes from a group of people on the left who love to put #BeKind in their X profiles and claim they stand for empathy and compassion and so on. They don't show any of that to people like you or J.K. Rowling, who stand up over the parapet. I think you've Riley Gaines as well, who's been incredibly brave in the sports issue and has had similar experience where she's been literally barricaded in buildings as howling mobs have descended on her. There's a real hypocrisy there, isn't there? That the Be Kind Brigade are often the most vicious.
The party of joy, the party that says they're going to protect women, they're only going to protect trans women. I mean, that's kind of where we are right now. And I've been saying this for a long time now, that Republicans and conservatives are going to protect women. And we're literally seeing this unfold in real time. The way that I have been treated, the bigotry that's out there, the hatred, the evil, the threat of violence, the threat of killing me, the threat of raping me, because I don't want male genitalia in my bathroom, because I don't want to be forced as a rape victim to have to undress in front of men. Like, that's just not, it's not okay. It infringes upon our rights as women, the rights of girls. And I've heard from a number of people all across the country who agree, men and women alike, and I'm deeply appreciative of it. But this fight doesn't stop here. So I got the speaker to change the policy on the Hill, but I have since filed federal legislation to protect women in federal facilities, federal property. That would include federal prisons. I mean, there are men who identify as women who are rapists sitting in federal prison in women's units, continuing to violate women.
It's completely outrageous. Yeah, it's completely outrageous. In fact, the first minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, one of the reasons she lost her job was because she allowed a male rapist to basically stick his hand up, claim to be a woman, and then be transferred to a woman's prison, where he was then surrounded by potential new prey. I mean, it was almost beyond parody.
Wild.
And it's happening here in our country. And then I'm going to file a third bill when we go back in session December for any facility or property that receives any federal funding anywhere in the country. It's going to stop there too. And then I'll have a very specific prison bill to protect women in prison. I've done prison reform in the past for women, and it looks like we got to do it again as well as a standalone.
I want to play a clip. This is Sarah McBride, who's the first transgender woman to be in Congress, recently elected. She said this on CBS News, Face the Nation.
Every bit of time and energy that is used to divert the attention of the federal government to go after trans people is time and energy that is not focused on addressing the cost of living for our constituents.
What's your response to that?
That jawline is crazy, though. Come on, dog. That go back too far?
Every bit of time and energy that is used to divert the attention.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Of the federal government to go after trans people is time and energy that is not focused on addressing the cost of living for our constituents.
What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, the misogyny, women can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can do more than one policy at any given time. I've filed almost 100 bills in my first 2 terms in Congress. I work on a lot of issues. This isn't the only one, but it's certainly the one that has touched a chord with women across the country from both parties. And I'm going to continue to work hard and fight for them while I'm stemming the tide of inflation and out of control government spending that's been caused by both parties for decades now. We need to stem the tide of illegals crossing into our country, invading our country illegally, and we've got to protect women. We can do all those things all at the same time. There's nothing to stop women who work hard.
Have you heard from President-elect Trump in the last week since all this started?
I have heard from folks that will be in his administration that are part of his team, and they support me in this endeavor. And they saw what you saw, Pierce, and that ad, they and them, and versus he's for you, and they support me on this policy, and I hope they'll support me in the future bills that we're filing as we speak now.
Well, Nancy Mace, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, man. Shout out to Nancy Mace. I know she's been going through it lately in the media and, with the death threats and all that stuff. We're praying for you and your family. We don't want to see anything happen to you. I know the devil is working out there, man, for real. Just because we disagree and just because women don't want men in their spaces, their private spaces, I don't think that's a result of needing to be threatened with your life or for your life. I think that's nonsense. I think it's evil. I think some people really need a reality check. And I think people need to stop playing around with this issue. This is a real issue to a lot of women, the majority of women, and I don't blame them. This is actually an issue to a majority of men too, and I don't blame them. Men don't want to be in women's places, private places, because honestly, we know that is not where we're supposed to be. We are not supposed to be in women's bathrooms. It is not okay. We know that. My mother taught me well. So should your mom. Your mom should have taught you. Your dad should have taught you. I don't know where y'all got confused at, that y'all thinking that y'all could be in any bathroom y'all choose. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. If I gotta go, I gotta go. And if it's a single woman's bathroom that has a woman's sign on the door and there's no other women in there and the men's bathroom is booked, I gotta do what I gotta do. But I'm not invading a women's area with a bunch of stalls and women out there washing their hands, and I'm coming in there hands open swinging. I can't do, no, we're not doing none of that. That's not happening. That's unfair to them, and that's unfair to the future women of this world. We deserve better. They deserve better, man. We got to fix this issue a different way, whether it's make it all gender bathrooms or make extra bathrooms for, the people that need it, or just use the men's bathroom and use the women's bathroom if you're a woman. It's that simple. Let me know y'all thoughts about this down in the comments below. I'd really like to know y'all thoughts. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate y'all viewership. Make sure you guys leave a like. Hit that subscribe button if y'all are new. And until next time, man. Peace.